Dr. Strange sat alone in his quiet room, lost in thought. Reed Richards approached and asked if everything was all right. Strange revealed that Clea, his former protege, had left him to rule the dark dimension. Reed, struggling to remember Clea, learned they had met 32 times. As Strange explained Clea's choice to battle otherworldly forces, demons, and more, Reed tried to understand the situation. Later, when the other superheroes arrived, Reed shared the news of Clea's departure. Iron Man, trying to offer comfort, awkwardly commented on Clea's attractiveness, realizing it might not have been the most fitting response given the circumstances. Strange questioned whether there's a sufficient amount of oneself to give to a woman. Reed responded with a simple no, and Charles chimed in, sharing his own struggles. The conversation took a humorous turn when Strange mentioned Charles dating outside his species, a fact he found on the internet. Charles, surprised that Steven is online, brought up Strange's ability to leave his body and go to the astral plane. Strange's response? He can't check hockey scores there. Tony Stark then celebrated married life, to which Black Bolt responded with a silent motion. The discussion shifted to relationships, with Stark joking about the challenges of chasing what married guys have readily available. Charles revealed he was mentally laughing at Stark's comment. Black Bolt added a silent commentary, and Reed mentioned Sue being a great mother and wife. Stark asked where Sue goes when she leaves, and Reed mysteriously replied, "Oh, I know where she goes." Namor told Reed that Sue feels like she's in a cage because of their relationship. Reed disagreed, but Namor explained that Sue got powers that tied her to their home, making it feel like a cage. Namor warned Reed to spend time with his family every day. Trying to change the topic, Reed was interrupted by Tony Stark, who shared a funny story about Madame Mask. Charles Xavier asked why the meeting was called. In short, Namor advised Reed to be with his family every day. Stark added humor with a story about Madame Mask. A holographic image appears, displaying Marvel Boy, Novar. Tony Stark explains that this young alien from the Kree Empire has declared war on Earth. Novar possesses enhanced reflexes, strength, speed, stamina, and knowledge of advanced Kree technology. Currently imprisoned, there's a constant fear of his escape. Stark emphasizes that Novar is a significant threat, and his release could lead to conflict with the Kree army. Namor suggests a straightforward solution: beating him up. Stark entertains the idea, but proposes another approach considering the delicate situation. To maintain balance and avoid provoking the Kree, Stark suggests convincing Novar to change his mind. He looks at Charles Xavier, suggesting a diplomatic plan to deal with the problem without making things worse. Namor, known for his aggressive stance, seems open to alternative solutions. Charles responds by explaining that his abilities don't involve directly altering people's minds. If he could simply reach into people's minds and change them, mutants would likely be the dominant social and political force. However, he emphasizes that it's not as simple as programming. Stark suggests that maybe he should make it that simple. But Charles points out that the mind is not a computer. It can't be turned on and off or manipulated like a machine. Stark questions why the mind can't be modified, and Reed inquires further. Charles clarifies that the mind is an organism, not a computer. Unlike a machine, it is designed to produce free will and retains a sense of its own identity and history. It's not something that can be easily adjusted with or controlled without consequences. Charles explains that even suggesting a small change, like making someone not see him as he walks by, would eventually be resisted by the mind. Over time, the natural nature of the mind would find ways to work against what it recognizes as false. He points out that if such changes were forced, the mind might react by causing harm, either to itself or others. Moreover, he emphasizes the ethical boundaries being crossed, from which there may be no return. Strange proposes an alternative approach, suggesting they talk to Novar and try to convince him through dialogue. Namor adds that he wants to communicate with Novar in a language he understands, indicating a desire for a more direct and forceful conversation to convey their message. Alone in his cell, Novar is interrupted as Prince Namor enters, commanding him to stand. Novar, unimpressed, playfully remarks about putting on pants. Before he can inquire about Namor's purpose, the Submariner forcefully slams his face into the cell's floor. Namor introduces himself, emphasizing that by declaring war on the planet, which is mostly covered by oceans, Novar has declared war on him. Novar responds with a swing, telling Namor to back off. Namor, undisturbed, commons him and attacks again. The Submariner initially misses, but lands a powerful left-handed punch, leaving Novar struggling on the ground. Namor instructs him to get up and take in his surroundings. As Novar rises, he realizes that everything has shifted. Charles Xavier's mental imagery has transported him to the inhuman city of Adelan, where Inhumans walk and fly amid grand spires and futuristic structures. Charles and Black Bolt materialize before Novar, and Charles kindly welcomes him to the Inhumans' home. He explains that he thought it would be beneficial for Novar to witness where his ancestors envisioned Earth's potential. Charles suggests that perhaps Novar isn't aware of the profound history between his people and the Inhumans, and this visual experience might provide him with that understanding. However, Novar, recognizing that the images aren't real, feels a bit confused. Charles elaborates on the lesson, emphasizing humanity's capacity for creation and a desire to protect rather than destroy. He points out that Novar's threat to their world clashes with the legacy and connection that extends thousands of years between the Kree and Earth. Curious, Novar asks who they are. Through Charles, Black Bolt projects his voice to inform Novar that he is the king of the Inhumans, of Kree descent, and that Earth is his home. Black Bolt emphasizes that when Novar declared war on Earth, he essentially declared war on himself. Trying to absorb all of this information, Novar is interrupted by Namor, who raises his arm, ready to strike, and straightforwardly states, "What he is telling you is that you are an immature brat." Back in his cell, Novar crashes against the cell wall, breaking his bed upon landing. Namor questions if he understands now. Despite Novar's attempt to resist, Namor's superior skills make it clear he won't be easily overpowered. Namor thrusts him against the wall, emphasizing that he is a direct descendant of those who aim to protect the world, not invade it. Novar is reminded that this world isn't his to conquer. Namor forcefully smashes his face against the wall once more before leaving him to pick himself up from the floor. Reed Richards appears beside Novar, acknowledging Namor's actions and expressing an apology on behalf of the Submariner's behavior. Reed suggests an alternative path for Novar, to serve and protect the planet, representing his people, their nobility, and culture. While acknowledging Namor's rough approach, Reed indicates that people are who they are. Standing atop a skyscraper, Novar, aware that Charles is still inside his head, questions the identity of these people. Reed responds that, lacking a better word, they are his second chance. They wanted to show him something, and as they observe over a panoramic cityscape, Reed shares that it's a cherished memory for him, a memory that's been a long time coming. Intrigued, Novar asks if it's Reed's memory, to which Reed clarifies that Xavier is assisting him in sharing this particular memory. In the distance, a figure emerges, flying toward them. As he draws nearer, Reed Richards identifies him as Mar-Vell, also known as Captain Marvel. Reed highlights that Mar-Vell was a Kree, much like Novar, and he was a champion for both their people. Novar recognizes the name, recalling that Mar-Vell was deemed a traitor to his own kind during the war with the Skrulls. Reed counters, stating that Mar-Vell played a significant role in ensuring their planet's survival during that war. He suggests that one could argue Mar-Vell single-handedly saved both the human and Kree races simultaneously. Aware that Mar-Vell is deceased, Novar questions why he is being shown this. Reed responds with a blunt statement, "Because the people of this planet are fools." Reed elaborates that the people of Earth haven't evolved to understand their place in the universe. They recklessly destroy everything in their path, with little regard for personal health or the impact on the planet. Involved in violent fights over unimportant political matters, they turn countless potential artists and scientists into soldiers for unwinnable wars. Mar-Vell, in contrast, saw a world in need of protection, not because of its current state, but because of the potential it held for growth. Reed emphasizes the irony that even Mar-Vell's name was mispronounced by the very people he tried to save. After absorbing Reed's impassioned perspective, Novar counters that it's all the more reason to conquer and put Earth to work for the betterment of the Kree Empire. Reed, however, asserts that such a scenario is clearly not possible. The immersive image fades, returning them to the confines of the cell. Reed questions whether Novar wants to spend the rest of his life in such confinement, pondering what went wrong. He suggests that Novar could use his exceptional talents for something that truly brings about positive change. Having witnessed Novar's capabilities, Reed asks if this is where the confrontation leads to more physical punishment. Novar jokingly asks if the pointy-eared naked man is about to start punching him again. Reed replies, "Actually," leaving the statement hanging. In Tony Stark's office, Novar faces Iron Man, who expresses a desire for a conversation. Curious, Novar asks how many of them there are. Iron Man responds that there are more than he can handle. When Novar inquires about Iron Man's identity, he cryptically states that he is the ghost of Christmas future. Iron Man reflects on the shared experience of having more power than most people can comprehend, the ability to envision a better world, and the frustration of dealing with a society that refuses to recognize its own potential. He understands the struggle of feeling contempt for those unwilling to see their potential, and the additional challenge of being stuck with a race so far behind the one you were born into. Iron Man stands and continues, acknowledging that when Novar first caused trouble on Earth, they weren't there to stop him. However, now they are, and despite his immature actions, they are actually pleased to see him. Iron Man emphasizes that everyone would be pleased if Novar learns to cooperate. If he chooses to do what he should instead of what he wants, he could live peacefully on Earth and become a hero to its people. Iron Man presents the crucial question: does Novar want to live like this? A flood of images overwhelms Novar's mind. He sees himself dressed in Marvel's uniform, charging into action with the Avengers, embodying the hero Earth needs. Then, the image shifts to Novar sitting alone in a darkened cell, with the Illuminati appearing before him as a united front. Charles Xavier explains that Novar has placed himself in the cell, challenging him to figure a way to break out. Puzzled, Novar asks if they want him to escape, and Dr. Strange clarifies that they want him to earn his way out, using his superior Kree intellect to figure it out. Left alone in his cell, Novar contemplates Captain Marvel and reflects on everything the Illuminati have conveyed to him. The decision stands before him. Back at home, Reed Richards pays a visit to his sleeping son, Franklin. Sue Storm appears, expressing admiration for their gorgeous child. Reed remarks on their good-looking kids, and Sue, surprised to find him there, comments on his stealthiness. Reed then puts forth a choice for her, asking if tomorrow she would prefer to go on a date, just the two of them, or if she'd like to take the kids on a picnic for a family day, or perhaps both. A broad smile forms on Sue's face, and Reed realizes he's gleaned something from Namor's straightforwardness. Elsewhere, Tony Stark, out of his Iron Man suit, reflects on his own reflection in his helmet. Meanwhile, Dr. Strange engages in meditation at his sanctum. At the cube, Novar contemplates the numerous possibilities that have unfolded before him, softly whispering the name Captain Marvel.